What's up everybody and welcome to the channel. In today's video we're going to compare the FL5 Honda Civic Type-R to the 8Y Audi RS3. Now ever since I bought the Type-R I've had so many comments of people asking me how these two stack up. Now we have a $20,000 price difference. An RS3 is roughly 65 grand, Type-R is roughly $45,000. So maybe if you're looking to buy an RS3 but 65 grand is just a bit more than you're wanting to spend, would a Type-R be a really good alternative to save yourself $20,000? Now it's also worth noting both of these cars are set up really similar with aftermarket modifications. I wanted to wait until I had some upgrades on the Type-R to compare it to the RS3 just so they were at least modified the exact same way since they're not direct competitors. Also keep in mind, if you own an RS3 or the Type-R, take a look at our website, links down below. All the mods on these cars you can get for your own car. These are both sitting on H&R springs. We have H&R wheel spacers, carbon fiber Arma Speed air intakes, and AWE exhaust. So really cool setups on these cars. Let's get into it. Underneath the hood of the FL5 Honda Civic Type-R, you're going to find a 2-liter inline 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. It has 315 horsepower with 310 pound-feet of torque, paired only to a 6-speed manual transmission, as well as front-wheel drive with a limited slip differential. Curb weight is around 3,188 pounds, and it can do 0 to 60 in about 5.3 seconds. Over on the Audi RS3, this has a 2.5-liter inline 5-cylinder turbocharged engine with 401 horsepower, along with 369 pound-feet of torque. This has a 7-speed dual-clutch transmission, paired only to the Quattro all-wheel drive system, and then with curb weight coming in right around 3,600 pounds, it's been tested 0 to 60 at 3.3 seconds. Moving on to exterior styling, I think both cars look really cool for what they're supposed to be. You got somewhat of a wide body appearance on the Type-R, nice gloss accents throughout it, even a functional heat extraction vent up above. Looking nice in white. They do come in a bright blue color available. It's very similar to what we have on the RS3. RS3 also has kind of a wide body appearance with the wide front fenders. You can see the large grille. So of course they each share characteristics with their respective brands. On the Type-R, you can see the profile looks really nice, kind of that hot hatchback style. And then you can see just some sharp lines throughout it. Nice set of wheels, big wing in the back. So it's still a pretty mature looking car. Has nice sculpture, very sporty over a standard Civic. And then on the Audi RS3, nice looking compact sedan with bold lines, sharp angles, and it really comes together. So honestly, either car looks super cool, just depending on your own personal taste. A bit more subtle in back for the Audi with just that small rear wing, but nice sharp bold lines all throughout it. And then over on the Civic, you can get a better look at the big wing, cool LED bar, triple exhaust tips in the center, massive dual exhaust on each side. But nonetheless, I think they both look really cool for the price point. Moving on to the interior with the Audi RS3, you're going to get a nice set of Napa leather seats with the cool red stitching all throughout it. Sporty looking, super comfortable of course. Got a nice Audi looking steering wheel with the texture to it. And then of course a little bit of carbon fiber, just a little bit of piano black as well. And then door panels finished off similar with some micro suede and contrast stitching. Type-R is going to get a set of manual seats, really large bolsters in the bottom and back, definitely a much more aggressive seat, finished in a sporty fabric. Cool looking steering wheel as well with just a smooth leather and contrast stitching. Got a nice mesh design for the air vents with just some plastic trim all throughout it. More contrast stitching throughout the center. And then the door panel, a little bit cheaper material with just a little bit of ambient lighting, some micro suede and contrast stitching. Now for the Audi, you're going to get a set of steering wheel mounted paddle shifters and then all the infotainment you're used to seeing for Audi. So nice digital display. You can adjust that along with different drive modes. You can get a pretty cool tack as well. So pretty nice use of technology. Everything looks pretty neat. The multimedia screen, you have all sorts of different drive modes. And then this is all what you would expect on all the modern Audi. So pretty nice layout overall. Backup camera has HD graphics, full parking sensors as well. Then climate controls, you have physical buttons. You also have a little bit of storage and wireless phone charging. Small shifter down below. Nice amount of storage space and everything. And not a bad interior. View around, pretty easy to see out. You do have a sunroof up on top as well. Garage door buttons. And overall, definitely a nice place to be with a good view around. Moving to the Civic Type-R, you got the nice red Honda badge, a cool digital display as well, and when you toggle your drive modes, it will change just a little bit. You can also get a really cool tachometer, so nice to see even in the Honda getting a pretty sweet layout. Of course, this one has a 6-speed manual, so you have an aluminum shift knob with all the numbers on it, pretty cool looking design. Infotainment screen is like what you're used to on most Hondas, so very familiar. I do love though how you're also going to get some vitals popping up so you can monitor quite a lot within this car. So pretty cool design overall. View out, this definitely has a little bit larger window, so a little bit easier, and with the sloping rear end, you have a pretty big view, so not bad. A little bit cheaper interior, I would say. There is some soft touch materials. However, being a Honda versus an Audi, of course, there is a little bit more of a plasticky feel, but for $20,000 less, this is a really cool interior. You can also see physical climate controls, plugs, wireless phone charging, nice amount of storage all down below, and a pretty good view around. So hopping into the back seat with the Audi RS3, this has a wheelbase at 103 inches roughly. I'm 5'11", sitting here with the driver's seat at my height. Headroom is actually pretty good. I'm not touching the ceiling, and there's a nice cutout to where my knees are not touching the seat. For a small compact sedan, you can genuinely sit back here. It's not the greatest, but it's not the worst either. Even in the center, you have an armrest along with cup holders, so it's not too bad. There's even air vents back here, and then pretty good armrest, and you still get the ambient lighting and the nice micro suede on the doors and all the gorgeous leather back here. And then now into the Honda Civic Type-R. This has a 107-inch wheelbase. So sitting here, this is definitely a much larger vehicle. With the hatchback, I have like twice the headroom, probably twice the knee room as well. There is cup holders down below, no center armrest, no air vents either, but you get good armrest as well. A little bit cheaper door panels back here with no soft touch, no ambient lighting, and you can see the flex in the plastic. So again, this is a cheaper car, but nonetheless, there is definitely more size and space in here, but you're sacrificing with less amenities. Both seats are equally comfortable, but you're definitely gonna be more roomy and spread out in the Type-R. Just might get a little toasty. Moving on to cargo volume, with the rear seats up, you have 24 cubic feet of space in this trunk on the Civic Type-R. It is huge. You can fit 2 golf bags back here. And then of course you can easily fold down both of the rear seats and you can fit a lot more items. You can fit 2 snowboards in it like this, but you're gonna get flat folding seats. You're still able to have that split to where one passenger can still ride back here. So it's definitely a very practical car being a hatchback. This has about 11 cubic feet of cargo space in the trunk, so it is about half the size. For 2 golf bags, you have to fold down the seat like this in order to get them back there. They're still gonna fold down flat, giving you 1 extra seat. And as you can tell, definitely a little bit smaller. So let's set off in the Audi RS3 first. I'm in the comfort mode right now, kind of your normal drive mode. First thing you're gonna notice with this, these seats are really comfortable, nice and padded. You do have a leg rest that can extend. They're not crazy aggressive bucket seats. Obviously there is a little bit of movement, but they cradle you pretty nice and they're still really comfortable. They're a little bit stiffer than some other generic, like more luxury focused cars. So they're kind of in the middle of, they're not a crazy hard bucket seat, but they're also not a luxury seat. They're right in the middle. So really well rounded, I would say. Suspension, ultra smooth, ultra plush. The steering is also very smooth. This is a nice driving car. It feels pretty refined, almost as if it was an expensive Audi. So it certainly has those characteristics that you would expect at this price point for normal driving. You have a lot of drive modes to control the suspension, the steering, the engine tuning, the exhaust valve. This will get an active exhaust. But if we play with the drive modes a little bit, we can go into dynamic mode. Everything stiffens up a little bit. The exhaust has got a little bit louder. But then you can go further into an RS individual mode, really dial in all sorts of different features like the torque splitter from front to back. You can make this slightly rear wheel drive bias, which I don't think it works all too well. But nonetheless, you have that capability. You can adjust all sorts of really cool things throughout that. And then of course, RS Performance mode, taking over manual control. In RS Performance, it will let you have full manual control. Other than that, it will upshift at redline. So kind of nice to be able to see both of those features. But when we are in the RS Performance, it's noticeably already a lot stiffer, hitting all the bumps. And then with that, you're gonna get lightning quick shifts from the transmission. So obviously performance and the handling are gonna be the biggest things. A lot of you have commented about these two. Already we are seeing a huge 0 to 60 difference, especially with all-wheel drive. Let's see how an RS3 takes some turns. The brakes are pretty good as well. I mean, you hit them, they start ripping your face off a little bit. These are larger. The steering is nice and smooth. It has a little extra weight to it now that we're in RS Performance. This thing is pretty responsive. The speed carries. There is a little bit sometimes of vagueness in the steering. I think there's just a little bit of front wheel drive interference, I would say, in this car. That has been one of my complaints with this car since we bought it. So obviously the Type-R is only front wheel drive, but you do feel it a little bit in this. Yeah, acceleration, wow, that's fast. This car's fast. And that's coming from someone who used to own a Nissan GT-R with full bolt-ons. Yeah, this thing books it. As you start driving it harder, the steering does feel more and more responsive, I would say. The suspension does keep the car really confident. When you initially turn in, it's a little delayed and then the car turns a little bit after that. So that is one thing I feel like this car doesn't do the greatest. The actual steering feel I wish was more direct. The handling itself though, this car does everything you want. It takes turns really quick, never loses traction. You have so much power to just go crazy in a straight line. The only downfall is just, I wish we could tighten up the steering feel a little bit, but it still translates to incredibly good handling. Like even there, ripping it through second gear, it maintains pretty good traction and the transmission just goes through gears so incredibly fast. Moving on to the Civic Type-R, we're in the comfort mode right now, and just like in the Audi, you can actually adjust quite a lot with the adaptive suspension, the steering feel, the engine tuning. This one does have the fake engine sounds, however, don't really notice that with the upgraded exhaust. So you're gonna get a lot of the similarities with having cool drive modes. You have the big brakes as well, which is a pretty cool touch. So normal driving in comfort mode, you can tell this car is definitely a little bit harsher in its comfort mode. It still does have a pretty big difference when you go into the sport mode, but comparing it to the Audi definitely is able to tone down into a luxury plush car. I definitely have no complaints with it. It's just definitely a noticeable difference between the two. This isn't gonna be as plush as the luxury brand. Driving in it, the steering does feel a lot tighter. Basically, I think the ratio is quicker in this to where if I move this just a couple degrees, the car's doing the exact same degree, basically. The farther I turn this, the farther the car is gonna steer. In the Audi, there is like that vague feeling in the beginning and then it tightens up. So it's almost like the Audi might have a variable steering rack, which I'm just not a fan of. This seems a little bit more pinpointy, which is pretty cool. You feel those bumps definitely a lot more. Interior feel is slightly cheaper feeling. I wouldn't say it's a crazy difference. There is soft touch plastics in here like you got on the Audi. However, the Audi's buttons, the screens all look a bit more upscale, a little bit higher class. When you touch the buttons, it feels a little bit more premium. With this, we can go into the sport mode, which will do a nice medium setting, kind of like Dynamic did in the Audi. It tightens up everything just a little bit, but let's go to the R mode, which will tighten everything up. I do love the gauge cluster. I do like how the Honda gives you the cool center screen with all the vitals. That's one thing I wish the Audi had. It just really has like tire pressure and G-force. So from here, when you go to the handling, this is very flat in the turns. And like I said, the steering feel is just super quick. Whatever I tell it to do, the car is gonna do. Certainly not nearly as fast. But man, you still get up to speed. Man, for a straight line. It is no slouch. I mean, it's noticeably not as fast as the RS3. That thing takes your breath away. But for a manual, at least, where you have to have those interruptions in gear change, the power is really good. Very flat. Man, the handling, it's like it's on rails. This is a close one. Higher higher speed, like higher revs, you do get some input in the steering that kind of makes the car go left and right a little bit, which you don't get in the Audi. The brakes also do a pretty good job. The manual is really fun to use as well. Honda does a good job with their stick shifts. It's pretty responsive. The clutch isn't too heavy. It's a really responsive car to play with. Definitely more understeer. So on big bumps, the car kind of hops a little bit. So you can tell it doesn't quite have that refinement that the Audi has, to where even in RS Performance, it can handle those bigger bumps. So after gathering my thoughts a little bit, I gotta say the Type-R really does hold its own against the RS3 as far as just pure fun factor. I think the best way to look at it for the RS3, speed, stability, and precision is definitely increased. This thing's fast. When you look at the Nürburgring lap times, this car's about 5 seconds faster than the Type-R around that track. However, the 2025 facelift, it's another 5 seconds quicker. So about a 10-second difference between a 2025 model year for each car. But nonetheless, this thing carries the speed a lot better. It is fast, around town driving, launch control, 0 to 60, stuff like that, to where you just want to floor it and go really fast in a straight line, significantly faster, and you have that precision of the dual clutch transmission. With the all-wheel drive, with the more refined suspension, it's a lot more stable at higher speeds. So I would say the RS3 is something that I would feel much more confident really doing high-speed things like an aggressive mountain drive, a very large track or something. This can handle the bumps to where it's super smooth going very fast. The brakes are super powerful. It's a really, really good car. It's a lot similar to my old GTR, I would say. There's a lot of similarities in this to that car. Now the Type-R, $20,000 cheaper, not nearly as fast, and like we saw in some of the bigger bumps when you're going fast, it's a little bit unsettling. It's a little bit not as refined to where it can't quite handle the big bumps going fast without bouncing around a little bit. Does that mean it's bad or not fun? No. This thing is fun. I think the steering feel is a lot better. It's a lot more direct when you're going around the turns. It feels like a go-kart. It really feels like the whole front of the car is just so tied to you and your bucket seat, to where you are kind of one with the car and you can just rip it around turns. So this is a car I would love to just do autocrosses with, and maybe slower speed tracks where there's just a lot more turns. The steering feel in the RS3 is just a little vague. I'm still just not the biggest fan, even with some handling upgrades. It just has a little bit of that vague feeling when you first turn in. But once you're going, handling wise, they're taking turns very similar, but you can definitely go a little faster in a turn because of the better suspension, I would say, in the Audi. But man, fun factor, they are both an absolute blast. But there are a lot of really good mid $40,000 performance four-door sedans slash hatchbacks that I think you would absolutely love if you don't want to spend 65 grand on the RS3. So why would you then spend more money on this? This is more comfortable, more luxurious feeling, much quicker, a little bit higher end interior materials, and it's just really confident to go fast and have a lot of fun. So I think both are very well worth their price point. Kind of why I bought each car, because I liked what they had to offer for the money. But if you want a $20,000 cheaper car versus an RS3, as of now, that is absolutely the best alternative. That has so much to offer. I'm so impressed with it, honestly. And I know this sounds maybe biased because I'm the owner of these things, but seriously, I only buy the cars that I really like. I test drive so many cars on the day-to-day, and this has truly surprised me now that I'm comparing it back to back with the RS3. That is a serious car for the money, for sure. Still love the extra goodies you're going to get in the Audi, but that holds its own. Anyways, there is my review comparison with the RS3 and the Honda Civic Type-R. Comment below, what other cars should I do comparisons with? That really surprised me. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, stay tuned for plenty more content, and don't forget to take a look at the links down below. Check out all these performance upgrades that we have on our website for both of these cars. They really do wake up these cars. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button. See you guys in the next video.